Hello, boys. I wanted to show you something. So, LA Express, this was the Los Angeles team for the USFL, United States Football League, from the 80s. And then we got right there, hard to see, the Arizona Wranglers. I was never a fan of any of those teams or the USFL for that matter, but the USFL kind of brings back memories for me of high school. I don't even think I ever watched any of the games. But anyway, the USFL, couldn't make a video about just that pennant up there, so I actually put this on. I didn't even realize that I could time in a little moment on the video. That's not what you asked me today. Today, Tommy, you asked me about when you were born. And, let me start how it goes. Mom was on bed rest. You've probably heard some of this stuff before. You might have heard all this stuff before, but I'm going to tell you how it was going on in my head and on my side. Mom was on bed rest for 20 weeks with you. Mitchell was a difficult pregnancy. You were difficulter. She started, I believe she was effacing, which means that her cervix was starting to weaken. The cervix is the little thing that holds you in. So they put her on bed rest for 20 weeks. I'd call her during the day and say, "Hey, how you doing?" And she'd say, "Well, I just moved from the east end of the couch to the west end of the couch." And that was pretty much her day. So she'd do that all day long. Wouldn't walk much. Could get up and around. Wasn't good to go to work. So she was off work for those 20 weeks. And then one night she went to bed and I was up watching TV. She'd go to bed early and I heard, "Andy!" And I knew right then that it was time. I don't know how I knew. There's something in her voice. And it was time, and we got you to the hospital, John C. Lincoln. And we waited around a bit for the doctor to get there. The nurses were taking good care of her. Mitchell's birth, I'll go into later, was a very long one. Yours was actually quite short, relatively short. She went from, the way they measure these things is the cervix is 0 centimeters dilated to 10 centimeters dilated. And when you hit 10, that baby's coming out. You got to 10 in about an hour. You went from 0 to 10 in about an hour. And that's pretty fast. Your mom, the nurses said when she threw up, they knew she was at 8. She said I think it was at 8. Mom will tell you better than me. But it was at one point she threw up and they said, "Well, we know she's at this point," and they checked her and she was. They always know, they said, when they get to whatever that point was, I think it was 8 centimeters, that women throw up. So she threw up and they said, "This baby's coming." And I remember your mom being on all fours on the bed in her gown that laced up the back. And I remember her, it was just me and her in the room. She's saying, "I gotta get out of here, I gotta get out of here." Just kind of crawling around, like trying to get away. And I don't know how to tell this lady, you're not leaving. Luckily the nurses came in and told her that. She got herself onto her back, her feet up in the stirrups, and gosh, I want to say it was maybe an hour, maybe 2, and you were out. I think the whole thing was about 4 hours from Andy to Tommy screaming and crying. Yeah, Tom, you came real quick. You've heard this story a little bit, but your mom was getting stitched up. They had to do what's called an episiotomy on her. Don't look that up, just take my word for it. And they were stitching her up, and they had you in the little warming kind of table, little thing with a light on it that kind of kept you warm so you didn't get too cold. You were covered in that little baby grease. It's kind of like a white grease. You're not covered in it. It's like if you put too much lotion on you, tried to rub it in, there's still some on you. But it's beautiful, clean, just kind of grease to help you get out. You still had some on you. You were kind of purple pink. You had hair. I remember taking a peek as you were coming out head first, and I told your mom, "He's got hair," because Mitchell was born with no hair. I was born with no hair, and you had hair. And I went over to it and I picked you up. And I've told you this before, but I picked you up and you were this big. Your butt was at the heel of my hands and your shoulders were somewhere around the tips of my fingers. And I just held you up and I could just feel the warmth coming off of you. Your warmth and your mom's warmth. This is minutes after you were born. And I just kept saying to you, I was looking at your face, and you'd open your eyes and kind of look at me. You'd stop crying at this point. And you just kind of look at me, and you were butt naked. and you were so warm and soft in my hands, and I just kept saying to you, I love you, my boy. I love you, my boy. Because I was trying to bond with you. I was only going to have it for a minute. I just wanted to bond with you for just a minute. And before they had to take you and do whatever else they needed to take you with, and I needed to go back to Mom. They didn't take you out of the room. They didn't like take you away. It's just like, we need him back now for a couple things that we got to do. And but I was just holding you, and you peed right on my chin. Just a little hot pee right on my chin. That's where I remembered anyway, but you peed on me. And I felt like that was our bond right there. You peed on me. And you're just a wonderful little baby. Covering the first few weeks, boy, you sure love sucking on, unrelated to peeing on my chin, you love sucking on chins. You'd suck on cheeks. You just, Mom was holding you, you'd start sucking on her cheek, sucking on her chin, or whatever. You had baby acne too. That was funny. You had baby acne. We were worried you're going to grow up and have real bad acne as a teenager. Is what they told us. You grow up and this is a sign you're going to have real bad acne as a teenager, so you need to look out for that. You never did. We might have mentioned it to a doctor at one time, and they were probably kind of like, whatever. We'll deal with it if that comes up. You never did. Yeah, you had baby acne, you had all that hair. You weren't real bushy haired. You've seen the baby pictures, so not real bushy haired, but you had hair, dark hair. And you were just a little love, and you had such a bad stomach. I felt so bad for you. Kaylin and I were watching some show, and somebody started throwing up on the show, and she said, if you don't like looking at that, you could turn your head. And I was like, I told her all about you, how you would just, in a little spit up, like Mitchell had little spit ups, everything came out, projectile, the whole stream would be coming out. Your daycare workers, Katie Kernberger, you've probably heard that name before. I actually don't even know if you ever met her before, but she babysat Mitchell, and she worked at the preschool, and they would have to bring extra shirts and you didn't throw up and start crying, you just threw up and just big old smile. The whole stream, everything you just drank out of that bottle would just come out, and you were just and it was just, you would drench me and Mom. So throw up, no big deal for me. I lived through Tommy being a baby. Yeah, you had interception to cause you some pain a few times. But yeah, generally you were just a healthy baby, just a little love, and yeah, pretty chill. And I'm remembering now, this has nothing to do with your birth. A few years later, you know this, running along, and you broke your nose. You smack right into the corner of a chair. It was a cushioned chair, but the arm of it kind of came down like this and went down to the leg, and just that part right there is cushioned, and just face first, whack, broke your nose. Doctor said nothing to do. It's a tiny little nose. We can't do nothing. It's just gonna have to live with it. But yeah, that's the story of you being born. You completed our family. It was a little different with having just Mitchell, me, Mom, and Mitchell. In many ways, we had our heads so far up Mitchell's butt because he was the oldest. That was a big deal for my parents. He was the boy. He was the firstborn, and that's a big deal, especially with my mother coming from an Irish Catholic household. That's a big deal. So you completed our family. You kind of made us sane, and that's a wonderful thing. Instead of two parents with their heads up a kid's ass, it was two parents with two wonderful boys, and you completed that. You made that possible, and I'm just so happy to have you as my son. I'm so proud of you. Just what growth you've had over the years, and I feel like there was a time you and I didn't get along too well after we divorced, and I wrote about it in that journal. I remember writing about it in that journal. You read it someday. I hoped that we had gotten our stuff together. I talked directly to you, and I said it must have been 2015, 16, something like that. I said I hope we figured it out, and I think we did. You and I love you. I miss our Tommy Tuesdays when your mom and I first split up, and we'd go out and do Tommy Tuesdays. Maybe we'll do one of those one of these times. I've been thinking about calling you, see if we can go do a Tommy Tuesday. But anyway, yeah, there it is. I love you, my boy. This one's for Tommy. Mitchell, you can watch too if you like. Love you. Bye.